If you're a leader, you need to hear this. Great leadership isn't about having followers. It's about making more leaders. The real measure of leadership isn't about power or position. It's about impact and influence. The best leaders uplift, mentor, and empower others to reach their full potential. Leadership isn't about control. It's about creating a culture where people feel valued, inspired, and ready to grow. Remember this. If you treat your employees like they make a difference, they will. Join us in transforming leadership into a movement. Watch this video and see the incredible difference it makes when leadership is about building leaders, not followers. What's the best leadership advice you've ever received? Drop it in the comments.
Welcome to Building Resilience. I'm Jose Pereira, your host. This is the place where true leaders are forged, where stories of adversity turn into lessons of strength, and where faith, courage, and resilience come alive. Each week we bring you voices that inspire, challenge, and equip you to lead with an unbreakable spirit. This is more than a podcast. It's a movement. And it begins right now.
Okay, now we're there. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to my show, Building Resilience. This is a show where we showcase people that have gone through things in their life, that have been having adversities and things in their life, but today they thrive. And I'm your host, Jose Pereira, and this is a show where I try to bring guests that you can enjoy the conversations. So today we're going to have a very interesting person. By the way, I always mention how I met the person. And Dominika, I had the opportunity to meet her like a couple of weeks ago. She was doing a training, a weekend training. A very good friend of me, Elena, is kind of a partner right now with her. And they did this training. And to tell you the truth, Dominika, for me was a bro-minded session where we talked there. And that's why I decided to invite her, because Dominika is a international acclaimed leadership neuroscience expert. She has almost 2 decades of experience across 6 continents. And she has advised C-suite executives. She has shaped national workforce police, mentor leadership in neuroscience, and she was the former advisor of the president of Poland, Bronislaw Komorowski. I said it okay?
You did perfectly well.
Okay. But, I'm Pereira Rembeck because I'm Dutch. So for me, that Y and the K goes very easy. Okay, so Dominika, with I'll no more further ado, I'm gonna give the mic. You can introduce yourself.
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you for having me. It was an honor to meet you in the training and provide you with things that you found interesting, which is always a gift to hear from the participants. And I'm very grateful to be on the show because I truly believe that the next level after psychology is neuroscience and optimizing the brain. And when I was advising in an advisory group to a Polish president, I didn't know all this stuff and I was struggling with so many things. I had no clue that there are so many tools, and we didn't know at that time because neuroscience became practical not long ago. Until now, it was just a lot of difficult words that most people didn't understand. And it is fascinating how empowering this can be and how much easier life becomes when we start using those little tips and tricks for optimizing your brain. And it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, you can literally create the life that would serve you better or would become the life of your dreams using neuroscience despite the environment outside.
When we did the training, there is something that really caught my attention about you because, as you said, neuroscience is very, very kind of brand new. The quantum physics too. There are a lot of talking about today about that. Joe Dispenza and all this stuff. But I'm a man of faith, and when you're talking about faith, I remember you were talking about the prayer, how you can use the prayer as part of retraining your brain. So this is going to be part of our conversation. So let's start this. Let's talk about the brain behind the resilience, because everything has to do with the brain, and I believe that the brain is that begins everything. So you teach leaders about resilience that and talk about it. What is what you do when you are teaching a leader about how to use the brain and the resilience?
So, first thing I like to do is to show every one of my clients, groups, and individuals that we already are resilient. We've already used that tool, it's nothing new. And there are examples in your life where you can see that you actually acted with resilience. And what is resilience? That is a question of definition. In my world, it is the ability to persevere, to move forward despite the obstacles. And in science, we've learned that there are a few things that are very important. First of that is the gray matter. It's the part of your brain that is literally responsible for resilience. And how in the world can you have that optimize and work for you? Well, I have bad news and good news. It's very easy and it's not. The good news is it is making yourself do things that you don't feel like doing. And it's not in regards to other people. That's very important. Not saying, oh, I will help you and you go and help somebody. It is keeping the word that you gave to yourself. I am not going to eat that cake. I'm not going to have that drink. I am going to go for a walk. And executing on that creates, despite the fact that you're tired, not feeling well, whatever else happened, doing that despite the obstacles literally builds that part of your brain that's called gray matter. And this is what creates resilience, nothing else. So it starts in kindergarten. If you're parents, or if you're a parent and you do everything for your kids, you literally set them up for failure.
Wow.
That is as clear as day. And making your kids do things that they don't want to do, having them go through difficult situations and finding solutions. All of that is part of building resilience. And when you become a leader, neuroplasticity is a beautiful thing, but it's a double-edged sword. So you can create your life to be horrible, and you can literally create your life to become a failure with neuroplasticity, but you can also use the same mechanisms to build yourself up and become a thriving leader. For that, resilience is absolutely necessary. It would be absolutely insane to think that things are not going to be coming your way and that you will love every part of your job. It is this weird fiction that we became a part of, saying you need to do everything you love and everything has to be great and you're going to love. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not going to love everything you do. You're not going to like everybody you work with, and you're not going to be joyful 24/7. That is not something you are able to do. We're not built that way, and your brain is not built that way. But imagine praising people that you don't like for things that they did, being able to see past your emotion and going, I like what they did there, right? I'm going to praise that. Imagine writing that report and not putting off the next day. All of that builds your resilience as a leader. And when you act in a certain way, we have something in your brain that requires mirror and matching. And that is using part of your brain that's called mirror neurons, which they reflect on what they see and they take it as their own. So if your people see you acting, and you can even voice it, I don't feel like doing this, but this needs to be done. And I've promised myself I'm going to do this. And they see you acting in congruence with integrity over and over, their mirror neurons, the environment starts to set this as a standard.
Wow.
So that's the short version.
Let me tell you something. Because you mentioned that when you're a kid, because it's commonly said that in the first year of the between the 5 years, the 12 years, that you really create your personality. So what would be an advice to a parent that's hearing this and they had kids? What would be your advice to help them to 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 shape what is going to be their personality, or try to push is that, because the other thing that I have heard is that during those years what you are playing typically is what is going to be your passion. So what would be an advice to a parent that you will give?
So there's some truth to what you're saying. And I would say, first thing, if you want your child as an adult to be creative, able to solve problems, expose them to everything and anything. Put them in environments you would never think. Have them try things that they would never try. Have them try foods, environments, friends, people, different beliefs, different clothing, everything. As much exposure to diversity as possible. Because despite some people's hopeful thinking, creativity comes from things we know. You cannot create something unless you've been exposed to it.
Okay.
Creativity is a different way of looking at something that already exists, finding another meaning, finding another use, finding another way, or shaping it in a different way. But to do it, you have to seen it or been exposed to it. You had to have experienced it in some way, shape, or form. Notice that most innovations in companies don't come within the market that the company is in.
Correct.
They come from outside. So let's say real estate gets inspired by IT and the other way around. They found different ways of doing things, and then we adapt those. Even beautiful paintings wouldn't exist if color wouldn't exist, or if trees wouldn't exist, or if, somebody in a delusion seeing things that don't exist, right? Their brain wouldn't process that differently. So, first thing for your kids is expose them, have them try everything. And it's okay if they don't like it. Nobody likes doing things that they're not good at, right? But what it allows them to do is build that resilience, allows them to build that gray matter in your brain. So every time they go and they don't feel like it, and you can set a deadline saying, I want you to try everything for 3 months. And if after 3 months you still don't like it, that's okay. We're going to move on. But try it for 3 months. So for 3 months, we're building resilience. And that kid is going, I've promised. I gave myself a word. I'm going to try for 3 months. I've said that I'm going to do this. And it's not about punishing your kid. Number 2, if your kids get into trouble, they're having issues with friends, do not solve them. Do not go to the parents unless there is a significant event like bullying, hurting somebody, right, where there's physical harm. They need to find their way. Also, please stop giving participation trophies. This is the worst thing you can do for resilience and for a child.
Oh, yeah. What?
It builds an expectation that no matter what you do, you'll be rewarded.
Okay.
And that is not going to happen.
Okay, that's a very good advice. Very good advice. Because there are a lot of parents that make that mistake. Yeah.
If you go to a birthday party, only one person should be receiving presents, the person who's having their birthday. We do not reward people for coming. They came out of their own free will and they're being hosted. Now, we are in a culture where we want to make everybody feel comfortable, which creates lack of resilience because it creates an expectation that when we grow up, it's going to be the same way, and it's not.
Oh, wow. Wow. Great advice. Let's talk about, in a leader, about the peak performance and the decision fatigue. What do you think about it?
Oh, wow. That's a very vast subject. So peak performance, it is optimizing your brain so it works at its best with the capacity that it has and also defining areas that can be improved and rewiring those. Now, decision fatigue is one of the first things we work on. Very often we make a mistake, and there's a very simple fix to it. Decision fatigue uses your brain's energy and brain reserves, which then results in you being less decisive or maybe a bit more angry or annoyed or less tolerant or less creative. And you get home and you're like, I don't feel like doing anything. Yet there's a whole list of things to do. So one of the things to reduce decision fatigue is to start making decision based on 2 facts or 2 options. Never present anybody with more than 2. So do you like green or blue? Blue. Great. Do you like blue or yellow? Your brain is able to quickly make a decision, make a clear decision, and move on. The moment it starts lingering, you drain the precious energy you have for your life. And your brain only has a certain amount of energy. So that's why later on you end up with brain fog and being distracted. Another part of decision fatigue is wrong use of your time and your natural circadian rhythms and your concentration time. And we did speak about this a little bit on a training. It is so important for you to know if you're a morning, afternoon, or an evening person and time that you're actually concentrating in. Because when that time of concentration runs out, you start using the brain power that would be part of the decision fatigue and you decrease your ability to make decisions. And then you become indecisive and confused and not knowing what to do and overthinking things, which is not serving you. So there is a certain way we can build up and create our work environment where we can be productive, effective, without overwhelming feelings or stress or anxiety that shows up for every leader. If you're saying you don't have that, you're lying because we are human, right? And being able to have that under control in a way that's healthy because it is okay that you're stressed. It's how you handle that stress, how long the stress lasts, and how does it influence you. Because most people don't know, your brain shuts down prefrontal cortex, which is the forecasting the future, self-regulation, and few other crucial elements when you're stressed. You have no access to it. So your leadership definitely takes a big hit when you're stressed. Imagine if you could experience less stress, how much more would you be able to do? How much more creative? There's no creativity, by the way, when you're stressed. We don't have access to deeper memories. And all of that plays in. So with peak performance, we start to decipher what's working, what not in your brain. What do we need to rewire? What do we need to work on? What is your sleep pattern? Where's your concentration? And how could we structure your workday so you can be the most effective and let's say finish in 6 hours instead of 10 hours?
I have a big takeaway of the seminar we did with you about multitasking. Remember we had that conversation because for me, that was a big mistake. I thought that multitasking was a superpower because I've been a multitasker on my life. And you don't say, no, your brain has two possibilities only. You put more, it's going to be a problem. So talk a little bit about that.
So again, that's a culture thing. We're very, multitasking. So science have proven now over and over that multitasking drains your brain energy and actually creates decision fatigue, confusion, inability to make decisions because you have only specific concentration time, which I just said a few minutes ago. And that has to be specifically dedicated to whatever you're doing. Now, do you know that if somebody breaks your concentration time on a specific task, it takes you 26 minutes to get back to the same place where you were? That's a 26 minutes lost, literally. So one of the things is highly recommended for multitaskers is to choose what you're going to work on and choose how long you're working on. And now we're looking at concentration time, right? And afterwards, what you can do is take a walk around the office for 2, 3 minutes and then sit back down and do it again. Now, while we're having specific concentration time, especially on things that are super important to you, that will move you forward. We're not talking about, talking on a phone and doing a basic thing, I don't know, making yourself a cup of coffee, right? If it's temporary. But when you're in an office, turn off notification, turn off your phone, put yourself on hold for a specific period of time. I guarantee you that you'll get more done than if you get interrupted. And I know that for myself. The moment I get distracted, like today I have my phone with me because one of my clients is going through different things and they need on time 24/7 support at the moment because of the situation. But the truth is, my phone is never in my bedroom. My phone is never around when I'm working. Why? Because I'm also human and I know that when I'm tired, I would literally pick up the phone and start scrolling. which what does it do? It depletes my dopamine. So it's the pursue chemical and the desire to do things. And then I get frustrated and tired and I don't want to think again and I don't want to make decisions because I just depleted myself on my own. So my phone is outside of my workspace. And I used to have literally a phone jail. That's how bad it got.
Wow, wow. So what would be a recommendation that you can give to a leader to reduce the brain overload and do a better performance? What would be your recommendation?
First of all, find out which part of the day you're the most productive awake in. It doesn't have to be the morning. Most people are not morning people. The 5 a.m. club told everybody that if you wake up at 5, your day will be long and you'll be so productive. It will be long, but trust me, I'm not awake till 11. I'm an afternoon worker, right? So I do less important things in the morning. So first of all, find out what's the highest concentration, most creative time for you, and put the most important things, most important meetings or tasks in there. That will decrease decision fatigue. Turn off every notification, every distraction from between, well, people have concentration between 7 minutes and 25 minutes on average. Find out what's your concentration time and block that time for those important things. Another thing is stay away from screens as often as you can. I know we all work on computers and we're, recording this on a computer, but the less screens, the less blue light, the less tired your brain is, and the better and more effective you are.
It is a lot of recommendations, very difficult to follow today.
But they're very simple, notice, right? That
Yeah.
nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
But we now have science that proves that changing those habits, changing those behaviors, literally optimize your brain. And how much value would that bring to you if you wouldn't have to work 10 hours, but you would be done in 6 hours and feel satisfied that you've achieved everything you wanted to do?
Yeah, that's so true. And let's talk about rewiring habits and emotional intelligence. So again, emotional intelligence is something that has been around some time, but now has come more important because a leader that has the strong emotional intelligence is those that are going to be successful. Let's talk about rewiring habits and EQ. What do you think about?
So EQ that's why I paired with my friend Elena, and
Mhm.
she is an expert in EQ, and she teaches that.
Mhm.
From the brain perspective, emotional intelligence is the ability to understand but not internalize what's happening. So noticing how somebody's reacting, but not making this about you so you don't react.
Mhm.
And having those tools. And I will leave that subject for Elena because she is an expert in it. And I truly believe that we all have gifts. And I would do you disservice if I would talk about it. She's phenomenal at it. So the second question you had was rewiring your habits.
Mhm.
So your habits are your autopilots. And it's kind of like with inventory. I don't know how about you, but I have a habit that every year I go into my closet. And if I haven't worn something in a year,
That,
I donate it,
that doesn't mean I have it.
give it away. Why? Because I like to have clarity of what I have to wear, what I'm wearing, what I like. If I haven't worn it in a year, I'm not going to wear it. It's not for me, right?
Mhm.
So that's a habit. But there are plenty of people, including my mother, who runs a huge company, that she keeps everything because maybe one day she will need it, which creates a constant chaos in your brain. It's a habit of keeping things just in case. Now, there are reasons why those things happen, but that was formed not when she's 60, not when she's 70, not when she was 30. It happened when she was a child.
Maybe the war.
There you go. That was the war.
The war.
Now, the war is a great excuse, but because there was never a need, she didn't realize how much it takes away from her, right? She never really worked on it. So every habit you have was created not consciously unless you worked on it. And it's not your fault. until you know it's not your fault and it's time to work on those habits. Right? So we're dismissing all the fault from the past, but now that you're listening to this, it is up to you to create habits, and habits are everything. Which hand picks up the spoon? How you react to people? How do you react if somebody doesn't reply to your email? How you react to certain postures? Habits are literally everything. Do you wake up and what's your first thought? That's also a habit. Now, the question I want you to ask yourself is like, does that serve me? Is this really getting me what I want to have? Because we're going to make this about you and only you. No,
Yeah,
nobody else.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Let me say something here, because I want to introduce here the prayer, because the prayer is a good habit. When you think about it, tell me what is, because beside the spirituality of the prayer, there is it becomes a habit to do a morning prayer, to do, or maybe in the night, whatever. So talk a little bit about
so there's prayer and there's prayer, like with everything.
it.
Good prayer that actually works wonders for your brain includes emotions. So when I look at people who, take their hands at me on the Holy Father, thank you for blah, 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 thing, amen, and they move on, that does absolutely nothing for your brain. But when you go at night or in the morning and you're grateful for something and you feel the joy and you feel even tears coming to your face and you feel the smile and you feel all the emotions, you're literally priming something called your default mode network and your CSN, which is Central Executive Network, for executing and looking for those things. So if you are feeling grateful and you're thanking for a beautiful day and for the beautiful things that are going to happen to you with joy and excitement to God, or you're meditating, it works both ways actually, then your brain enhances and strengthens those feelings and those perceptions and those cues that will happen in your environment. And it will be able to notice them, which you will say, God made it happen, right? It was always there, but because of you praying, because of you being grateful, because of you expecting that and doing something towards it, now your brain is focused on noticing the results of things happening. So, part of building a beautiful life for people who do believe in God is actually learning how to pray.
Mhm.
For people who are spiritual, it is practicing gratitude, being thankful, and practicing joy. And one of my practices, which I would love to share with everybody, it doesn't matter if you believe in God or not, is every day find two things that you're grateful for, but it cannot be your family, your work, your dog, your friends. That doesn't work. I want you to dig into your day and look for something, just one thing or two things that were so unusual, like somebody opening a door for you or somebody passing you salt. What it does, it teaches you to notice the little things which life is made up of,
Mhm.
and it allows you to enjoy life more. So, prayer, absolutely, but you do need to actually pray, not just go through the motions.
Yeah, yeah, it had to be intentional. In my church, we have a school of praying. We do it every Saturday morning, Saturday 6 a.m. in the morning. And let me tell you, you cannot imagine that you go 6 a.m. in the morning and you can see 600 people pray. The movement is growing and growing and growing, because our pastors, they are very intentional. They say you have to express emotion, you have to feel it while you're saying, you have to express the gratitude, you have to feel it in your heart. So that's where that change comes in your life. And 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 honestly, this is beautiful, because it puts your life in a totally different mood. You're going to begin your life in a totally different mood. So if people, it doesn't have to do that you have to be religious or not. Is live it intentionally. So it's a very good advice. Dominica, you're a mother of twins, and how the neuroscience has shaped your parenting at home.
I had no clue about neuroscience when I was mother of twins. I was reading some books. But I can tell you that they do have a special bond that is not understandable to anybody who's not a twin.
Mhm.
I can tell you that they do communicate without words, and you can see their connection, and it's absolutely wonderful to see.
That has a scientific way to some
I've
have
read
to be.
some about it. There is, especially if you're identical twins. So mirror neurons and the proximity create a special bond, and they
Okay.
are built from the same, identical twins from the same DNA. So
Mhm.
there is a lot to do with it. I didn't never dove into that neuroscience, so I wouldn't call myself in this case an expert. But let me tell you, being a mother of twins teaches you resilience like no tomorrow. Because those two beautiful ladies, now grown women, aged 25, um, they have a very strong belief about protecting each other. So it's always 2 to 1. They are always 2 against 1. And it's very hard to negotiate with very passionate young ladies. Now, as adults, it's less, but when they were younger and hormones were up and running, and there was, the prefrontal cortex was developing. Ooh, resilience was, the primary driver. One of them was not to just literally hang them on top of the ceiling and to beat them with some type of a wet cloth like my grandma used to do to me. Uh, I didn't. I created resilience. I stopped myself from doing it. But twins teach you about perception. And it's very interesting because very often they see the world through very different eyes. And because they were raised the same, that's very important. They were raised the same. They come from a similar DNA, yet there are so many differences at the same time. So it shows that you can be in the same environment and have a very different outcome. And that's where the peak performance, brain power, optimizing your brain, optimizing your thoughts, optimizing your behavior comes in. Because a lot of us say, oh, you had all these options. Why are you where you are? That's not guaranteed. That's only a part of the success story.
Yeah.
It is, who are your friends? What is the feed that you're getting on a daily basis? What are you watching? What is resonating with you? What parts of your brain are not optimized and there's lagging, let's say, and what parts of your brain are overactive, right? All of those things play into peak performance and becoming the best version of yourself because at the end of the day, you are not able to create something you don't have. And being happy is absolutely your responsibility. Being the best human you can be doesn't matter how you grew up. It doesn't matter what you went through. You have a choice after that what you're going to do with it and how you're going to take it and what are you going to do about it. So let me give you an example. I work with a lot of people who end up with me and they say, well, I have this anger issue. The first question I have, right? Then they go, I had a happy family. My mother was great. Everything was great. And I just get so upset. Like I can hear you say that. So tell me about any brain trauma. No, no brain trauma. Like, did you ever hit your left temporal lobe? And they're like, well, I fell off a bike, I fell off a ladder, I was playing football, whatever that might be. Science has shown that if, let's say, that part of your brain has been beat up because you fell, you hit your head, and inside your head, you have those ridges, right? And inside your skull, and your brain is like the warm butter. So when it hits, it leaves a mark.
Wow.
Years later can change your personality.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. So your brain is responsible for your personality. And all of it makes sense. That's why very often therapy doesn't work because we did not work on brain health. We're working on what we see, but we're not working on the organ that creates that.
It can be repaired.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Interesting. Wow. When you're talking about the twins, I was remember this is a joke for me because when I begin my career in the oil and gas, I had a boss that he was like I was like 20, 22, 23 years
Uh-huh.
old, and he was like 60.
Yes.
But he was a twin, and nobody knew he was a twin. He was the manager, and his brother was the president of a bank. Wow. And let me tell you what this guy did, because when the time we became friends, and he told me one day in confidence that sometimes they change, and nobody noticed that because they were so similar. So that the day his mother died, I went to that ceremony, and I met his brother. By the way, he was who approved my first loan for my house. His brother, because he was the president of the bank, they were exactly the same. I could not recognize them, the same tone, and they were in the 60 years. And they had the same glasses, the same hair, same everything. They were literally exactly. So, well, that was something that was coming to me. Let's talk about the future of a leader, when now that we know that you can retrain your brain, that you can rewire your brain, you can reframe your beliefs, a lot of things that today are common science that maybe 20, 30 years ago were not there. Now we have all these tools. What will be the future for the leader having all these tools today?
First of all, there'll be always more tools. There'll be always another level, as they say. But it's not about chasing something that you don't have. It is about deciding who you want to be. That's the first step. How you want to be perceived. And you start with you. Not how they perceive you, but how you perceive yourself. And are you in congruence and in integrity of yourself? That's the first step. Now, when you have that, I would invite you to look for people who have already where you want to be. That's very important, because this is a saying that I've heard not long ago again, and is very, very important to remember. Who you are now and who you decided to be, where got you where you are, is not who you need to become to get to where you want to go. So you need to see where you want to go as a leader, as a person, or as an, owner of a company. And what is the outcome you want to have, but in human terms? How do those people, do you have anybody that can look at and go, I like this behavior, I like this behavior? And so what do I need to believe, and who do I need to become that person? Right? So have people who inspire you that you want to be like. And it can be one trait, it can be few traits. There's not a perfect person. I love a lot of things about my, people that I admire, but it's not every part of them. I have a lot of mentors that I like certain parts of them, but I don't like the other parts of them. And that's perfectly okay. So I pick and choose, and I go, okay, what do they do? How do they behave? What do they need to believe to be that? And then that's where the neuroscience comes in. Because we need to start with brain health. If your brain is not healthy, it's not optimized, if you're not feeding it right, if you're not giving enough sleep, if different parts of your brain are overactive or underactive, you will have either sleepy reactions, or you might be overstimulated, or you might get anxiety. All of that is connected to brain health. And when you work on that, then you start creating new habits and new beliefs. And it's not from a point of psychology, because that will not work unless your brain is healthy. That is so important. If you're sitting there and you're admiring, I don't know, The Rock, who is the epiphany of health in America, and you're sitting there and having another bunch of chips and you're having another beer, but it's only in the wanting side, but you're not embodying a certain behavior. And it's not about being extreme, but about being fully aware of what it takes to get somewhere. And then you start working on it. But there's a but. Don't do everything at once. Choose one trait and work on that. And the moment it becomes automatic, so your neural pathway changes into a pattern, and your typical behavior and your kind of everyday way of being, that's when you take on another task. Work on one thing at a time. And I guarantee you that the change will be so much more effective, so much more permanent, and so much more quicker than if you start working on everything. Don't work on your health, on your intelligence, on your knowledge, and on 50 billion things. Choose one. choose one and very specific. Because when we do that, we activate our default mode network. And when that is very clear, then your CEN, which is central executive network, takes over, which is the doer part, the driver part. When it becomes automatic and you do it without thinking, it becomes part of you, which triggers other changes that you're not even working on.
Correct. Correct.
So treat yourself as the most precious gift that can always be better and become who you want to be, because you're not set with the brain you have. You're not set with the personality you have. You have a choice. And if you're not changing, I'm sorry to tell you, but you are at fault.
Yeah.
It is only up to you.
You mentioned three things that for me are very important. Is finding your purpose, having faith in yourself and where you want to be, and leaving a legacy. So that I believe that this is very key to any leader. So Dominica, you have worked in several countries and have been working with several cultures. And by the way, you were advisor of a, a president. So what will be your best advice to leaders today that want to go to the global stage? What would be a recommendation?
I would say that from my experience, it's not about going global, but it's about being a leader that is asked to go global. That's a very different thing.
Mhm.
And allow your people to question your authority. See, we live in a world where a lot of people come from environments where authority is always right. And we consider questioning authority as disrespectful. But
Mhm.
questioning authority allows people for emotional safety. And of course, there are ways of doing that. We're not talking about calling somebody out, but saying, I disagree with this. Allow your people to disagree with you. When you treat this as their perception, not an attack on you, it will show you your blind spots and things they see that you don't. But for that, you need to be very stable and clear on who you are and other people's opinion not being taken personally. And I have found that the leaders that I admire and those who have really achieved a lot of things allow people in the right forum and, in the right manner, let's just say, to question their thoughts and question their decisions. Yes, at the end, they make the decision, but the fact that people are not being threatened by having a different opinion builds creativity, builds openness, and people come up with solutions that those leaders would have never come up with without that environment. So that would be my advice, because I have a very strong conviction that this element in the US culture is absolutely lacking.
Oh yeah, definitely. Remember we were talking. I was joking to my audience the other day with her because I come from a third world country where that it's very common here in the US talking about thinking outside the box, but in the country we come there's no box. You have to think and move on. There's no box. So here in the American culture, sometimes there are things that yeah, I agree with you. So let's do a quick fire chat here. I'm going to ask you five questions very quick and what comes to your mind. So
Okay.
the first thing is one book that changed your life. One book.
One book that changed my life. Surprisingly, it's not going to be a management book. It's going to be a book for women called Queen's Code.
Okay. Who is that?
And so, the Queen's Code is a book for women which allows you to be a leader, but also trust your intuition and speak in ways where power doesn't come from force, but from wisdom.
Okay. That's okay. And a brain habit you practice daily basis.
Ooh, that's my morning ritual. I wake up in the morning. I am grateful and excited to start the day. I go outside. I look at the sky for 5, 10, or 15 minutes, depending on the overcast, to activate natural cortisol, which we do need in the morning to be awake. And then I do some stretching.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And one thing that people should stop doing for helping the brain. Stop doing it.
Stop practicing putting themselves down.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's
Self-beating, it has to stop.
yeah.
Practice remembering beautiful moments instead of how you messed up in life.
I don't know why there are so people, for me, this is an interesting topic because I'm a very positive guy, so I cannot understand that people beating them down. Why are you doing that? You, you should be grateful that you're breathing. Every time I wake up, it's like, thank God I'm breathing. I'm breathing. Period. Define resilience in one sentence.
Ability to move forward despite lack of enthusiasm.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. So true. So true. So now we're almost coming to the end. So where the people can find you? How can they find you? What can you share with them? So this is your 5 minutes pitch.
Oh gosh. Only 5 minutes? Only 5 minutes? Okay, well, first of all, I'm going to invite all of you to the Magic of Dreaming Big, Acting Small, and Achieving Success. And it's coming out in Spanish as well. Ever. So that's number one. You can get it on Amazon. You can find me on dominikastaniewicz.com, which is my speaker's website. And you can find me on yourbraincoachd.com, which is for coaching and corporate trainings. And those are three things I can offer to everybody, depending on what you need. There's always great to have a conversation because sometimes, like today, I wasn't the right person to ask the question. And I have enormous set of experts, people who are phenomenal what they do that I would love to recommend them because they're just better. Can I do something? Yes, but I believe that I'm going to work in my gift zone. And if somebody can deliver better results or quicker than I can, I will refer that person out. And I work with especially female leaders, women that have been in rooms where they were the only woman and they were looked at as a dessert, not as a leader or the same light, where they had to build resilience and encounter situations where men spoke down to them for example, having a different opinion. And it's not that men are bad, but there is a certain culture that they walked into that nobody taught them how to manage. I love, absolutely love letting clients go. And this sounds very weird because they say keep the client as long as you can. I don't think I had a client longer than a year because they don't need me. And that's the goal. The goal of my work with you individually is that you don't need me. And with a corporation, company where we provide trainings and lunch and learns, what's beautiful about what we do, it will not only enhance and create very different atmosphere and abilities of your employees, but they will take that home and translate to their home life, which will improve the quality of their life at home. So with neuroscience-based trainings, although it is based on the environment that you're in, and we're talking about leaders and running teams and creativity and feedback and all of those things, those principles we will also teach you how to apply in your daily life so everything can benefit from it. And there's no doubt that if people are less stressed at home, they produce better work,
Oh yeah, I think.
right? So it's a phenomenal thing. And I worked on 6 continents so far. Unfortunately, the penguins do not want to hire me, but I am working on that. So there's not a place that I wouldn't be able to support you. We all have brains. You're in Africa, your brain is the same as mine. You're in South America, your brain is the same as mine. You're in Europe, it's the same thing. It's not a skin color, it's above any division because we are phenomenal human beings. And this thing between our ears can literally change the world for the better and make our lives much happier and much more productive.
I always mention that because I work with several cultures, and I always said that one of the things that really connect the people is being people.
Yeah.
We're human beings. There's no skin color, there's no race, no religion. We're people at the end. So now that we're coming almost to the end, by the way, she did a TED Talks recently. It's going to be outside. You can have a small talk about the TED Talk before we finish. So,
So this is it. So TEDx Okononowanok, I was a speaker, and I spoke about why female brains are built for leadership. And I added neuroscience in there with practical explanations because women's brains are wildly different from men. Not better, not superior, but different in ways our world desperately needs. And those skills translate into money in running a company, high amount of money. And I quote studies in there from SP Global 500 and SP Global Market, which they run studies and they just blown out of the park. And I took all of that science and I wanted women to see that they have a gift that they could cultivate, that they could rise to the place. There's nothing stopping them but themselves. And yet it is also a benefit to men because studies have shown, and this is a study I quote over there, on 6.6 million research teams over 20 years.
wow.
And they found that teams that have men and women working in harmony together were quoted at a much higher rate, and their innovation was off the charts compared to female-only or male-only teams. We are meant to work together, not against each other, not separately, but together. And I hope that this TEDx does meet the needs of women and fathers and men who are wondering if they should have women in leadership.
Sorry, that was my grandson coming.
That's okay. That's okay. Kids are a blessing, and sometimes they just are part of life and walk in.
Okay, so that TEDx is going to go out in the recording in a couple of weeks, you told me.
They told us that it's between 4 and 8 weeks before it's posted on a TEDx website.
Okay, well, let's be touched so we can follow it up. Well, this has been a wonderful show. We have done a lot of conversations. And remember, her website is Your Brain Coach D, correct. And her personal is Dominika Staniewicz. Oh, sorry, I don't know how to.
Don't worry about it. We're all good.
Staniewicz. Okay, I'm gonna put in her contact. And one last minute before we finish to the audience. What do you want to say to the audience?
First of all, you're not stuck with the brain you have. You are not destined to where you are now. But it is your choice what you're going to do with your life. It is your responsibility to make the best of it. And it's not about you. It's about who you become and who you influence and where you can make the world a better place. There's 8 billion of us, and there are only few million in power. Imagine if those few million would just take an hour to make the world a better place every day. In a year, we would not recognize this place.
Right.
So be the best version of yourself that you believe you can be.
Well, that was a great advice, Dominika. There was a wonderful conversation. Maybe we should do a second part.
Absolutely. It will be my pleasure.
Okay. Well, thank you, the audience that is hearing this. Next week, we're going to have another wonderful guest, but it was a pleasure having Dominika today with us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Bye.
If you're a leader, you need to hear this. Great leadership isn't about having followers. It's about making more leaders. The real measure of leadership isn't about power or position. It's about impact and influence. The best leaders uplift, mentor, and empower others to reach their full potential. Leadership isn't about control. It's about creating a culture where people feel valued, inspired, and ready to grow. Remember this. If you treat your employees like they make a difference, they will. Join us in transforming leadership into a movement. Watch this video and see the incredible difference it makes when leadership is about building leaders, not followers. What's the best leadership advice you've ever received? Drop it in the comments. Welcome to Building Resilience, the podcast where faith and leadership intersect to explore the true meaning of resilience. My name is Jose Pereira, and I am thrilled to launch this journey with you.